This is the Ayer Conservation Commission meeting. It is Thursday, January 26, 2023. Commissioners in attendance this evening is Jenna Maya as member, George Bacon as member, Jessica Gino as member clerk, Mark Phillips, vice chair, myself, John Schmallenberger as chair, and our conservation agent, Heather Hansen. Welcome to all of you. Confirmation of agenda.
It's all good for me.
All good?
Mm-hmm.
Motion to approve the agenda as written.
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say nay. It passes unanimously. Approval of the meeting minutes for January 12th, 2023. Everyone had an opportunity to read the lovely minutes. Any changes or comments?
I had one.
You had one? Nice.
Exclamation point, exclamation point, exclamation point.
Yeah, fine. On the Greenway Committee discussion.
That's towards the end, isn't it?
No, it's
Yeah, page 2.
page 1 and 2.
Oh, there it is.
On page 2, where it talked about tools for trail maintenance, and that I said, for the big stuff, DPW would traditionally be contacted.
Uh-huh.
I didn't say that. Maybe somebody else did.
You didn't say that? Somebody did. I know somebody did.
Yeah.
Okay.
Just put down someone said.
Okay.
Anonymous source.
That's right.
Okay, I'll read that one.
I didn't say it, but you can say I
Well, after all, you did
Oh.
mess up that other
did. I
thing.
did,
too.
yeah.
I may have said that.
You might have.
Yeah.
Oh, maybe.
That sounds like Heather.
Yeah.
Offering up people, other departments.
Yeah.
Services.
Well, I contact them all the time.
And then Jess, on the first part, on the ANRED, sorry, first part, I meant first page
Yeah.
for Orion Park. We talk about the vernal pool, and it's in the fourth bullet.
Yep.
I guess just the way it's written at the end of the sentence, is that how we want to say it? That ANRED will include a note that any future proposals for work on the site should include requiring the potential vernal pool issue to be resolved, or did we want to have it flagged if it's going to be in the area, or vernal pool issue just seemed a little ambiguous, and I just wasn't. If everybody else is comfortable with it, that's okay, I guess. But do we want it a little bit more clearly stated?
Just so you know, too, on response to that, when I sent DEP the order, they flagged that too.
Okay.
And I told them what we did. I never heard back from them, so I'm sure. But just so you know that happened with it too.
I mean, because I know we said we're basically okay with it. They could start moving forward, but I guess I'm thinking, if we think it's going to be anywhere near it, that we were required flagging, and I think that was basically understood when
Yeah,
we were
because
there,
they
right?
mentioned that too. Yeah.
Yeah.
That they went out and did it during the drought, and it was after the time that the vernal pool would have been noticed had been dried up anyway. So they stated when they do the NOI, that they'll make sure that they do that certification to see if it is a vernal pool or not.
Okay. So maybe something like the vernal pool flagging will be detailed prior to any or something to that
Verified
effect,
or something.
Yeah, verified. Yeah.
Do we want the flagging or the certification?
Certification.
Certification would include the flagging. but
Yeah.
it would
Yeah.
also-
There you go.
Okay, all right. To include requiring, how about requiring the certification of the potential vernal pool to be completed?
Mm-hmm.
That sounds great. Thank you. That's the only thing I had.
Anybody else? All right, is there a motion to approve the meeting minutes for January 12th, 2023 as amended?
So
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Passes unanimously.
2.
2. Oh my goodness. Public input. All right. First order of business this evening, it's a request for certificate of compliance, DEP file number 100-0030. How long ago was that?
I'm not gonna tell you how old I was when it was issued, but it was done in 1983.
1983. Okay.
So this request came in, I think shortly after our meeting, maybe the next day, after our meeting the last week. And it's just, we had one, I think, for the same company. Sandville did a lot way back in the 80s. All the early numbers seem to be Sandville Corp. along Ayer Road, early enough. So I'm assuming they must be gearing up to do something with the land, or they're just cleaning everything up for estates. But this request came in then. It's a 40-year-old some odd order of conditions that just was never received a certificate of compliance. So now they're
Never done.
requesting it.
Okay,
Okay?
So- go ahead.
Project site located at 80 Ayer Road, Littleton?
Yeah, I thought that was kind of weird.
Well, it's right that line. I think so. There must be a part of it that's in Ayer.
So the address is Littleton.
Are we sure it's Littleton and not Ayer? Because why would it come to us then?
You know what? In 1983, who the heck knows what they did?
Yeah.
Well, if the address is Littleton, but part of the property is still in
Yeah, because when you get to the campground, part of
Oh.
that's in Ayer and part of that's in Littleton.
So
Okay.
they would have had to have had
So this
two
would be a
orders of
mailing
conditions.
address even though it, okay.
That would be
I'm
my
okay with
guess.
that then. Just
Yeah.
trying to get that clarified.
Yeah, that part of town gets kind of, I think, muddled.
Okay,
So they would have needed an order to Littleton as well.
Yeah.
So-
okay.
Yeah, because I had that with the temple there in Groton. The beginning part actually ends up being in Littleton, but the whole temple's in Groton.
Oh, the
Mhm.
Shredardi, how do you say that?
Yep.
Okay.
Anyone have any issues with this? All good?
Have they complied?
Yes.
Okay.
Complied?
You go up there.
Mm-hmm. I sure did, and if you, their order of conditions was only
That's 3 sentences.
4 pages, so.
Okay. You okay with that, Jen? Jess?
Yeah,
Me too. Motion to approve the request for certificate of compliance. DEP file number 100-0030, 80 Air Road.
Someone,
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Passes unanimously. You got something to sign for that?
I sure do.
All right.
Mm-hmm.
Something to approve.
I always bring 2 pens.
Just don't think about it. Couple of- That's it.
I always bring 2 pens in case one dies halfway through.
Always gotta be prepared.
It just happened when I had to run to the office.
And Jess has like 14 pens. So you can just order. So you have like 14 pens.
only 410.
I had a meeting today. I'm trying to write my pen died. I had to borrow a pencil.
That's over.
Oh, yeah, well, not for a recorded document,
Oh,
but
yeah.
yeah. Awesome. Thank you. I'll make a file for this one. I don't even have one.
All right. So let's move on to our next item this evening. Is a discussion on water chestnut pool, the 2023 campaign. Lori Nearing,
Thank you.
welcome. Can you just fill us in a little bit about
Yes.
what your plans are?
Yes, I was planning to give you a brief summary of what happened last year first. And I realized when I went through my emails this afternoon, I never sent you the final report it looked like. So I just sent it to you about an hour ago.
Yeah, I'll send it out to them.
So you'll get the whole thing, but I have a copy of it here, so I'll just verbally summarize.
Sure.
The report was fully accepted, and I finally just today got the full payment for the grant submission. Your board, you in particular, really helped. Several people here were very helpful on the Water Chestnut Pull. So the big picture is that it was very successful. We did test everything that we intended to. Quick reminder is before we could get people out on the water pulling the plants out by hand, we needed to make sure the water and the touching the plants was not going to be contaminating anybody through absorption in the skin or inadvertently swallowing things or anything like that. So of the original $4,995 grant I got, most of that was planned to be spent on testing the water because those tests are, as you know, quite expensive. As we got started, we ended up deciding, and I got NRWA's support with Martha Morgan, or Moore, helping us and guiding us on what we would do. So she was attending a lot of our PACE meetings, and we ended up enhancing the amount of testing that we did. We set up 3 different phases, and just bottom line stuff is we ended up testing 3 different sites, and I was out there every 3 weeks to kind of have a good view of how things were progressing. So I have a good idea now when we need to get out there. We found a little bit of contamination in the plants, a little bit in the surface water, almost nothing in the sediments. So the sediments were pretty clear, which was interesting. And all of the amounts were quite low. We had 2 different toxicologists review the results to tell us, what does this mean now? And all the levels were far below drinking water standards. So PFAS, we measured PFAS, chromium, cadmium, zinc, lead in the surface water. We got a volunteer to test more thoroughly in the sediments, and there's almost nothing in the sediments, so except for arsenic. And that was the original concern that we had way back. But still the levels were quite low.
Arsenic, and that was what I remember.
Yeah, we tested arsenic too.
Okay.
Yeah, I forgot to mention.
Also
this.
very low.
Very low, yes.
Good.
And so we were told by 2 different toxicologists that unless somebody was like jumping in the water and drinking and swallowing a lot of water, or if they got like a lot of muck on their hands and they didn't wash their hands before they ate something, they should be okay. The one concern was that the muck it kind of adheres to your skin because it's sort of clay-like. So we wanted to make sure we advised people, we warned people, we gave every single person a presentation about, what the concerns were. They signed a liability form, and we had a washing station with bioorganic soap. People could wash right after they got off the water. So we ended up having, it wasn't as many people as I thought. So I couldn't remember when you emailed me
fine.
today, but
I think I just was.
it was 40 people, I believe,
Yeah.
with 7 different sessions of pulling, roughly 3 or 4 hours each, sometimes longer. Sometimes I stayed, I went to the mall and stayed a little bit longer than most people did. There's 25 volunteers, came from 7 different towns and cities in 3 different states. So we had, most people were from Ayer, of course, but we had some people from Connecticut and New Hampshire joined us. People from New Hampshire were affiliated with the National River Watershed Association, and this one gentleman, his name is John Fisher. I don't know if anybody here knows. Yeah, I don't know if you met
He's a
him.
wild man.
Yeah, he just
he
filled
was-
his boat.
Oh, he was sinking.
Yeah, yes, he was just about sinking. Yeah, you saw him too on the first day. He had a lot of wonderful experience and offered a lot of guidance. So he came out several times. The second time he came out, he brought along some instruments where he could stand on the bridge and kind of aim this instrument to judge how far it was distance-wise. I don't know exactly what he used, but he was able to measure how big the mass was at that time. And he determined it was 1.55 acres, which was not as bad as he thought it was originally. Originally, he was overwhelmed, like all of us were once we got out there. But he said, this is doable. This is a doable project. If you can stick with it for about 4 years, maybe 6 years, you can do this. So he gave us a lot of encouragement and support. And what was kind of interesting was the people from Connecticut, so I think they're doing their volunteer pulling further south, so kind of a different environment, warmer. they were very strongly minded and really warned us that we had to pull the whole plant every time we pulled up a plant. And by the time we got out there, they were gigantic.
Yeah.
And their take is that if you don't pull the whole plant, including the roots, it's going to regrow if you leave the roots in. And that is exactly opposite of what Martha very carefully told us to do, and John also. So because we're further north and they're working mainly in the Nashua River, the water runs harder and colder. I thought about this for a long time. I tried to get a lot of advice, and I ended up realizing that our site at Grove Pond is probably in between the two environments. That it's not as warm as Connecticut, it's not as cold as the Nashua, but our water was shallow, and I think our plants were growing faster than the Nashua River because NRWA doesn't tend to start until like June-ish, and I think we need to be out there the middle of May. So we ended up sort of compromising in the end. As the season went on, as we're getting into the fall, if we just pull the heads off, which is what Martha taught us to do, the rosettes on the top, Martha said that was going to be good enough because the plants will not have time to regenerate the rosettes where the seeds come from. I brought some with me. If nobody's seen them before, I can show you what those seed pods look like. They're really creepy.
Well, when you pull the rosette, the thing just pops out of the bottom anyway. It's not that hard to pull it up.
But but they were saying, sometimes the roots go on for about 8 feet.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, when I was doing it from the shore, I was getting a lot of those where I would get 3 or 4 in a row.
Right.
So I felt really encouraged by that. I'm like, well, I pulled one, but I got 4 other babies, so I did something today.
Yeah. And the last pull we ended up doing in the middle of August. And at that point, it was actually pretty depressing to be out there because they were so dense and overgrown. You could not paddle through them at all.
Yeah.
So we had to spend a lot of time. We realized after the first pull, people were getting stuck, especially people that were heavier, and maybe their boat was smaller. So they were sinking and getting stuck. So we had to spend that first day really focusing on just clearing a path so that people could get through to where we were taking out. So this year, the grant is due next week. I'm in the process of gathering all my facts together, and you've already written a letter for support, so I really appreciate that. And so what I need to bounce off of you is maybe some permits are going to need to be a little bit different, and I want to just seek your support and advice on what I need to do and get your feedback. So here's what's different. We're not going to be doing testing. We don't need to do that anymore. So that means we can get started much earlier, and that's my intent. Because we're also doing the PFAS health study right now. I've been doing all kinds of outreach, and I've been getting lots of names of people who are they want to help with the water chestnut. So I think we'll have a lot more people helping. And I continue to make those connections. The scouts and boys from the high school especially are excited about doing this, so that's really cool. John Fisher and I have been communicating, and he has advised me that once we start pulling the plants up, we're going to be allowing the sunlight to go through the water more. And so plants, seeds that would not have been able to germinate now probably can, because it's 1 step, 2 steps forward, 1 back kind of thing. And therefore, he suggested if you can get people to be pulling all summer long, maybe like every weekend, that will probably serve you better. So that's my thinking. And so that started some other thoughts. So I spoke to Jeff Thompson, Parks and Rec Director. Thomas, thank you. And I spoke to Robert Pompeyant about the possibility of being able to station 2 canoes that I'm going to write into the grant. They're going to be used canoes, and permanently lock them down by the put-in at Proney Park. So they're looking into, they're both like, the concept is fine, but liability issues, and I wanted to bounce this off of you all too. My vision is Harvard, the town of Harvard has a boat sign out thing for people who just want to sign out boats for recreation. and I want to find out how they do it because they have a locking system. You have to do something online and you sign up for certain boats that you're going to be using, and then there's a key that you sign out. And they have it figured out. So something where there's going to be an online sign out system so people will know when other people have the boats out, and you have to be trained or you won't be given it's going to be a combination lock. So something like that is what I'm envisioning. So today I looked into used boats, and I went to the Boston paddling company, and they have this amazing place. If you ever have a chance to go there, they have this gigantic warehouse full of all kinds of stuff. So that they're going to give me a great good price on the boat. So anyhow, from your perspective, I wondered what concerns and thoughts you have about that aspect. And then there's some other things that I want to bounce off of you too.
They're just going to be locked up down at the end of the road
Yes,
to something.
yes.
To each other or whatever. But,
Yes,
yeah.
with life jackets, and I have to figure out something with the paddles. I'll probably have some kind of a log box,
Okay.
yeah.
With the,
And you said it's been put in Peronia Park, so like right next to like the Girl Scout area,
Yes,
right over
Yes.
there.
right there.
and
So
everyone who would sign out a boat would have to sign
a liability
the
form.
liability
Yes.
in advance. And
Yes,
yeah,
that's what I'm picturing.
yeah. I don't know. Anyone have any issues with that?
The only thing I can think of, and I'm sure Jeff probably would have mentioned it to you, is anytime they have any sort of activity, like a special activity at the Peronia Park. I remember, because I used to do the minutes for them. So a while back, one of the Eagle Scouts or something wanted to do like a jamboree there. So my only concern is if they have any sort of activity like that there, what would happen to those boats when you have like 20, 30 supervised kids staying overnight in the park if they were to do that
they
again.
do that?
They talked about it, I don't know, a year or so ago when I was still doing the park minutes, and I don't know if they ever actually did it.
With the scouts?
Yeah.
Okay, because they're talking about working with us.
Yeah, no, so as I'm saying,
Yeah.
I'm sure it's just me being, because I had an issue when I worked in Littleton with
Yeah,
them
yeah.
using the town hall for scout meetings. We had some vandalism, some dry erase boards during one night. So I just envisioned something like that being where you'd want to make sure, like block it off or something, like just soft crosses or something, just to be like,
Vandalism is what
Yeah.
you're concerned about, yeah.
so that there's be
Or
concerned
we
about
need to
something
get
like that when
one
there's
or
something
we
like
if that
that going
happens.
on, a special occasion going, like a softball tournament or something going on at the park where you have a lot more people there that aren't
Yeah.
used to the area, that you get the 5 or 6 kids that would be and that's something that the Parks Commission would know is happening beforehand, so they could just let you know and you could figure out something to
Yeah,
put around
yeah.
those for that
Jeff has let
weekend.
us put our stuff in his garage when we
Yeah.
were doing the pull before, so
That's what,
That's a good
I'm just
warning.
envisioning something if there was ever
Yep.
something like that going on at the
yeah,
park,
okay.
that you'd want to just keep an eye on those for that.
One thing that the paddling company recommended to us today is they also help with other water chestnut pulls all over the place, so they're very into this. They said that they purposely saved their sort of battered boats, the ones that people really won't want to steal, to be available for these kinds of things. And they float, they're
Yeah.
workhorses. So
And I don't mean to bring out the worst in people, but that's just what I envision.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
have
yeah.
Like a tournament, especially something big there at
Yeah.
the park, where you have 50, 60 extra people there from out of town that
That's a
kids
good
get
point.
lost in the crowd.
Yeah,
of people
that's a good
and
point.
Get in trouble.
that's very valid. Thank you.
Mhm.
I wasn't aware of that. Yeah.
And again, I don't know if
Yeah.
how often they do that there, but
Yeah.
it's just a thought.
Are these things scheduled? Do you know how?
Yeah, they do. They
advance?
have in order for stuff like that to be used, they have to go to the Parks Commission
Yeah.
and get permission to do that. So they would know ahead of time.
Yeah.
So, and whether they do that there on a regular basis or not, I have no idea, but just a thought that could occur. So I would just
Okay.
verify that with Jeff before,
Okay.
and if there is anything that is scheduled, to just let you know, and you can
Yeah.
lock them up, or
Yeah.
you just don't rent them out that weekend
Okay.
or something. Or you could, and they won't be. I don't know.
Okay. That's good
Yeah,
warning.
I
Just a
guess once
thought.
they're in the water in a way, it's
Yeah,
not going
it's
to
just an idea, just to keep in mind if anything
Okay.
going on at the park. That
Okay.
They do rent it out for. I know they do it for birthday parties and stuff, but I don't know if they're going to do that this year with the playground gone. But.
I also talked to somebody about how to lock them up, and this is a friend of mine who does woodworking stuff, and he said you're probably better off just using a tree than trying to set up like something in the ground, because they can removed, something that you stick in the ground. So just use one of the trees that's down there, and there is a good tree right
Mhm.
where we would need it to be, so,
Yeah.
which we actually used last year.
Mhm.
So-
You know, up in Baxter State Park in Maine, they have a lot of isolated canoes stationed at remote ponds. You get a key from the ranger, and they just have a big chain around various parts of the canoe to a tree.
Okay,
You have a padlock. You get the key from the ranger, and
yeah, probably a padlock would be better, because then I can change it if I
yeah,
need to, compared to a cable lock with a dial thing on it.
yeah.
Huh, that's a good idea. The chain would be better.
All the
Okay.
ones at Baxter, they leak too.
No, they don't.
Oh, they do.
Really?
You don't know how to steal it because you won't get far.
Okay, so there's two other things that are a little more controversial from a Conservation Commission perspective. The first one is the place where we were taking the plants out of was right behind where the community garden is. And as you know, it's kind of steep hillside there.
Yep.
And the volunteers that were helping take the baskets out of the boats and carry them up the hill over and over and over again, that was really hard
It was
for them.
exhausting.
So they've asked us if we could put in some kind of stairs. And
Well, I thought about that last year, but just because when we were doing it, it was hard
Yeah.
to do. And I was thinking about that, and you could do a temporary stairs, just basically just 2x4s or 4x4s, tied together with cable or rope or whatever, 12 inches apart, just lay on the ground and be secured up above
yes,
so it wouldn't slide into the water. And it would just give you a purchase, someplace to step,
yes,
and then it could be taken up.
that's what we were going to propose. That's
Yes,
exactly what we're
like
going to
that.
propose. Yeah.
Yeah, that'd be easy to do.
Okay. So as long as it's not permanent, there's no.
Well, it probably was gonna cause less damage to the slope than
I was actually wondering if we
sliding
could
up and down.
not do it not right at that point, but if you walk further up that path, closer to where the water chestnut and concentration
Mhm.
point was, it's a less steep bank, but it needed some clearing, and we didn't. I forget why we couldn't use that last time.
Well,
That's-
the area that we used was clear. It was already clear and trampled
Yes.
down.
Mhm.
So it wasn't pristine in any fashion. Further away from there is more of a natural slope,
Yeah.
vegetation and whatnot. I think it'd be better to stay where it was.
I think further down, it's like transitioning from the water to the slope is not smooth or in any sense of the word.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, you'd have roots sticking out or this or that.
Yeah, getting the canoes up to the shore, getting
Yeah.
stuff onto the shore from your canoes. It was an easy transition
Mm-hmm.
at that point.
Yeah. One of our concerns was we spent a lot of time portaging back and forth
Yeah.
to that spot. So
Well, I think this time when you do it, because I remember when we did the first poll, it was just me on the shore. If you had 2 or 3 people at the shore doing it, it would be a lot faster, because you
Yeah.
have one walking because one's coming back, and it just having the one person trying to do all that, and then when there's 2 people in a boat, they try to, so they're docked there, and the other people came
Yeah.
in. I think if you could do it where people go out on a time instead of everyone leaving at once to do the poll, and you do like one goes in half hour increments, so their buckets aren't getting full at the same time.
I don't think that's the way it'll really.
No,
mostly
but
work.
again, this is my mind thinking
Yeah,
that way.
yeah.
And then if
But
you
actually,
have,
I was talking more about the amount of time it takes to paddle from
Oh,
where we
from
were
paddle to the
pulling
thing.
to the shoreline.
Right.
But the plants are going to be smaller
That's
when
what
we're
I'm
out
saying,
there
it's gonna
too,
be-
so
it'll be
it could be
easier
a
to
whole
get through.
different.
And if you could find a spot further down, closer,
Would it be okay with the board if the commission
you're
if
doing a temporary.
we'd like to look at it
And
and
it didn't alter it too much.
Yeah.
Just clear out some debris.
Yeah.
Have our agents.
it's going to be temporary.
yeah, so I
whatever.
can go out and look at the sites with you when
Yeah.
it gets closer, when it's not covered in snow.
I didn't hear you.
So I can go out and take a look at the site with you when it's not covered in
Yeah,
not covered in
yeah.
snow to see what we can find.
Okay. Yeah, it might be really different if we get out there before the plants grow and
Yeah.
all that.
Yeah.
Okay.
We could trample
Okay.
down some knotweed.
That's right.
What was that?
It's a two
Triple
I
down
said maybe you
some
could trample
knotweed.
down some knotweed or something.
Yeah, that's what we tried to do. We put it all on top of the knotweed
Yeah.
before.
Yeah. Yeah, we did.
Okay.
Let them kill each other.
So that was that was one concern?
Yes, the last concern is I'm evolving into a new concept. And this has not been proven by anybody as far as I know, but it's coming from when I did the sampling. I was using, when we first went out to do the sampling, I could not tell where the water chestnuts were going to be growing from. There was nothing growing yet. And that's when we did our very first sample. So I used a pool skimmer that I had, and I just kind of dug around in the muck until I found water chestnuts. And then I was like, okay, I'm there. So our first station, I struggled to find a couple, but that's where our first station was. The second one, it was a little bit easier. The third one, I turned out to be, I was right in the middle of it. Every time I scooped, I got like 8 nuts. So it's like, can we get those things out of there? Like when you rake your yard, you're getting them out before the leaves all fall. The acorns, I mean. So my concept was, is there some tool where I can get those nuts when they're at this stage out of the sediments before they start growing? So I'm going to show you some pictures of some things that I've just been playing around with it. So I got a couple copies. There's 2 different things. So there are things that they use to rake for clams and also for zebra mussels. That I think the prongs are, I haven't been able to see them in person. That the prongs are, it's described as being 1 inch apart. But they have like scoops on the back of them to hold nuts. So if they worked, it could be really helpful to get out some of the nuts before they even start growing. And the water's still pretty shallow, but it's going to disturb the sediments. So that's the part that I think you might be concerned about. Martha and I were emailing about it. It's Martha Morgan again. And she's like, well, when you pull the plants out, you're also disturbing the sediments. So either way, you're disturbing the sediments. So I don't know if, there's a trade-off. And all the stuff is going to settle back down from where we got it from.
How deeply did you have to scoop up with the net?
I'm trying.
Sorry, how deeply did you have to scoop up with the net when you were?
It's about 3 or 4 feet deep.
But how much in the sediment?
Oh, how much of the sediments did I pull up? Not much.
They said
When
right
you,
at the
when
top,
you use the pool skimmer, there's like a couple inches in at the most, or what?
I don't remember any mucky stuff coming up at all, really.
But it doesn't sound like. So it was like on the top of the sediment, really.
Yeah. I'm guessing that there's probably about this much deep of water chestnuts down, like several years worth on top of each other. And supposedly the nuts can be viable for like 6 years. Not all of them, obviously, but some of them. So if we can get them out, I don't know how hard it'd be. Might be easy. I don't know. I'm willing to try it if I can write it into the grant. But I want to see how you all feel about.
Well, it's just a solid mass of water chestnuts on the surface.
Yes.
Now.
Yes.
So, I don't know. It seems like it's not a pristine area. And once you get that junk out of there,
Yeah.
I imagine whatever is natural will come back pretty quickly. Not knowing.
I would hope so. Yeah, if we
Yeah.
can get
You
it out.
already did the testing to know the sediment's not overly contaminated, so if it were to trickle downstream, it's not a dire constraint. I think the only
Yeah.
issue would be like, oh, we're expecting torrential downpour, tomorrow. That wouldn't be a good day
Yeah.
to do it.
Yeah.
So you give the water and the sediment a day or so to like resettle. So I think if we were to approve this and have it in an order, an ANRAD or something, the condition would be just to not do it when heavy rain's expected, because the flow of water
Yeah.
would be as
Okay.
fast.
But
Yeah.
it doesn't seem like it's it doesn't seem like any more of a disturbance than pulling the plants. So
That's what I'm
Not too
thinking.
much, no.
Yeah.
When you skimmed it up, what other sort of muck did you bring up? Could you identify anything, or?
What other sort of muck will we bring
Yeah.
up?
What other sort of plant material or whatever?
There's nothing else growing at all. Just the water chestnuts. It's fully massed with water chestnuts.
So in digging up the nuts, were you bringing up deteriorated or decomposing leaves from the water chestnuts in addition, or?
That's what I would expect would be there. On the outside edges, though, we probably will get some other things, where it's spreading from. But we tried to beat it back. We tried to, so that was our goal. I didn't get to that part, but it was way too much for us to be able to do anything more than, so if this was the mass, this thing was the mass, we tried to do like a 30-foot radius all around the mass to try to keep it. And then we tried to, like you were involved in scouting around the whole perimeter. People who were better paddlers did a lot of scouting to see if they could pull up any odd plants that had spread and try to eliminate it.
I have a question. When you scoop this stuff up and you do bring up the nuts and you bring up other vegetation, are you gonna dump you gonna get that vegetation out of there too, or are you gonna be selective and just pull the nuts out and put the vegetation back in? What's your thoughts on that?
I don't think I'm going to get other vegetation, but
You don't think
there
so?
could be water lilies.
Like the muck on the bottom, you're not planning on bringing up all that muck?
No, I don't want the muck.
Yeah.
I just want the nuts.
Well, that's kind of why I was asking. It's like, what
Kinda
else
like-
did you bring up when you
Yeah.
skimmed?
Kind of like
Just
So-
to
split
get
it
an idea,
before you
like,
bring
is
it
there
up.
anything of
Yeah.
value in there?
Yeah.
Well, I'm hoping that those devices that I discovered, the baskets have a wide enough mesh on that the muck will fall through, but I'm
Yeah.
hoping that it holds the nuts. But I'm picturing I might need to adapt it somehow, maybe with like chicken wire, or I might need to line it because the prongs might be too far apart.
Because some of those nuts, they're not that big.
Yes, that's,
They're funny shape, but they might just
yeah,
slip
that's why
through.
it's an experiment.
Yeah.
So nobody that I know has ever done, haven't asked every single person, but people that I know that have done this, they've not heard of this before.
Yeah.
Worth a shot.
Anyone have an issue with that?
No, this might be a question for the circuit rider, but would this be permitted to do that more intense work? Would that be permitted through an RDA, or should it be a notice of intent?
I can ask her.
Yeah.
Because you were stirring the sediment underneath it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you think it's more disturbance than pulling the whole plant out after it's already rooted?
I don't
Versus
No,
skimming the top?
no, it's just, I know before you started, there was something that was on, I think the Sudbury, that Asabat and
Mhm.
other thing, that circuit riders were talking about something similar, and, whether things should be a notice of intent or not. So I don't know if the state would push back, that's all. So
Yeah.
I would talk to the circuit rider,
Yeah, they
Better if
tend
we
they
could
tend to
avoid
push
it.
back on a lot of things, but
Yeah.
I'll ask the question, and I think too, until we know what it's going to do as far as pulling sediment, it makes it hard to ask the question.
Sure.
So I feel like, as much as you'd hate to spend the money in the grant to buy this thing and have it be like, well, no, you can't use it, it doesn't work like you want it to, but I don't think we can answer that question until we know how it's going to work.
Okay.
I don't anticipate it being much more than what pulling it out was. Like I said, I was on the shoreline. I was yanking everything I could.
Yeah.
And I was getting sick because it's a lot like knotweed, right? You just start pulling and you can get this big long thing going because it's an invasive and that's what they do. So I don't think it would be that much more. And if you are kind of like shaking everything loose,
Yeah.
I think it'd be no matter too of going out and looking and seeing how long it takes for that sediment to settle back down again. Because it could be so heavy that it just does it so
Drops.
fast. It's
Yeah.
not so fine that it's actually see it washing away. I think
It's only $90. You can try get one and try it out.
That's what I was going to do. I was
Yeah.
going to get like one of
Yeah.
each kind
Are you sure?
if the grant lets me. I was going to try to borrow one, but
That's
we
what I
lived
was
on the
saying.
Cape.
You sure you can't borrow one anywhere?
I'm
Or
trying.
somebody, or-
I'll keep trying. I put it out there on social media. Does anybody have a clam rake I can borrow? I haven't got any responses
Yeah.
yet.
I
Get one in your
hold
garage,
that thought.
George.
I'll see what I can do. I might know
Okay, we
someone
need
who
to
ha-
find
I
somebody
might
on
know
the Cape.
I might know someone who has
Maybe
one.
go out to Conrad's and ask the Conrads.
I like the half basket rig.
The half basket.
Looks doable.
That's your favorite?
Yeah.
Which-
I was looking at the
Which one do you like?
The half basket rig.
Aha.
Yeah. Looks, well,
Who knew? I didn't know any of this stuff. I just typed in, lake rake, and I started getting all this stuff.
So are the water chestnuts in a location where the current flows through?
Mhm.
Yes.
Are they
Yeah.
moving, did you say?
Are they in a location where the current is flowing
Yes.
through?
Yeah.
Yes.
So the sediment would be
That's what I'm
carried.
saying. If we were to allow it, we'd have to make sure we condition it that it doesn't happen on a day that heavy rain's expected to keep it that. But again, we need to see how this is going to work just in one small area to get an idea if it's even permittable on a large scale.
They do make the aquatic equivalent of a erosion control fabric.
They do, they have
Yeah.
those, but I mean,
Will you stretch it across?
Yeah.
yeah, that it is a weight and it kind of drops down to keep everything in. Yeah.
Interesting.
So when they have like an oil spill or something,
Yeah.
they'll do that. Yeah.
Hmm.
It's like a silt barrier that goes in the
Yeah.
water.
It's not a terrific current coming through there, though,
That's, yeah.
usually.
I didn't notice a current.
Oh, yeah, it was, it's some things, especially too, if it's another drought summer, it
Mhm.
wouldn't be
Yeah.
a big deal because there wouldn't be much water going through at all.
Oh,
Yeah, which last year was drought.
Yeah, last year was drought.
yeah. Actually, that I was wondering about. Isn't it the depth of the water is controlled by an artificial dam with a board between Grove Pond and Plow Shop Pond? Do you regulate that?
It's a private dam.
Yeah.
I don't know if they put a board in or not.
I can't hear you.
I don't know if they put a board in or not, but that's private.
Who is they?
Calvin Moore.
Oh,
I'm pretty sure he doesn't touch it.
because if the water was lower while we were doing this, that might make it easier. But I don't know what other side effects.
Yeah, if the water was low, you get stuck in it.
And in a way, it might make it easier, but in another way, it might make it to where you can't access the edges
That's true.
because it was shallow even
Yeah, that's
last
true.
year.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
And then you have habitat impact.
that
Mhm.
yeah, that's what I was wondering.
Are you thinking about the water higher?
Hmm.
I want the water higher.
Well.
Okay. So
anybody
last year I
else?
also needed to file a permit. I would need to do that again, right?
The files. Well, just to do the poll, the ANRAD's actually good for 3 years. The ANRAD's good for 3. RDA are good for
Yeah.
3 years. So
Oh.
that's still good. So just to do the
Oh,
poll,
good.
we're still fine. If we're gonna do the raking or putting some sort of stairs or clearing of the path, we'd have to do another one for that.
Okay.
But for the
Okay.
actual poll, no, you're still fine.
Okay.
It's covered the one from last year.
Okay.
Okay.
So you'll send me the form, or Jess, you sent me the form last year, I think.
Yeah, I did.
Yeah.
So send her the forms.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
For the new stuff, yeah. I think
Great.
Yeah, I'll do that.
Okay.
But for as far as the poll goes, no, you're still covered under the old one.
Okay.
Yeah, whatever you can do to make that easier.
Thank you.
That was.
Appreciate
I actually had fun doing it.
it.
Are you still planning on dumping the collected material in that same area?
I was hoping to.
And that just pretty much just wilted away to nothing?
It did. I took a
Really?
video of the worms after.
Went
Yeah.
from to down to that.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
It was
Well,
like a
Actually,
big
the
pile like
squirrels
this
ate, the
for
squirrels
50
ate the
feet.
nuts too.
Oh,
It was
I-
a lot.
Yeah, I was worried because the squirrels ate the nuts. I went out and checked on it very early, and I saw the squirrels go scampering away when I came out there, and I looked at the nuts, and there was nothing inside that they ate.
That's a good thing.
As long as they didn't carry them away somewhere.
dump them in the water elsewhere.
Yeah, that's
They
right.
went and planted them. And now we're gonna have water chestnuts all over the.
Yeah, but it's
ground.
water chestnuts, so it's not going to grow in the ground.
They're ground
Right.
chestnuts.
As long as they didn't dump them in the water. Is what
Yeah.
Yeah. No, we put them on top of the knotweed on purpose. So we thought we'd just, take care of two things at the same time.
Yeah.
If that's okay with you, that's what I was picturing, is assuming that we use the same takeout spot.
If that's
Yeah,
okay with the
that was-
commission.
yep.
It seemed to work out pretty well.
Awesome. Great.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, if you have any other questions or thoughts,
It's great.
suggestions,
We really appreciate what you're doing.
well,
Mm-hmm.
thank you.
Really.
I appreciate your support as well. I just was like, got this. When I saw that the first time, I just like, oh, we got to do something. So,
So do you want me to sign this letter?
I need to send it to her electronically, so if
Okay.
you just sign it tonight, I'll scan it and send it to her tomorrow.
Okay.
yeah, having it electronically actually is easier because it'll get submitted that way.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, Lori.
You're welcome. Teamwork, right?
Teamwork makes the dream work.
All right, have a nice evening.
Thank you.
You gonna stay?
Yeah, I might stick around a little
It's so interesting.
But this one can be.
Okay. All right, our next item this evening is a discussion on the update of Air Solar 2.
Air Solar 2, everyone's favorite topic, my favorite place to go every week.
Still going every week on Wednesday?
This week we went on Tuesday, But yeah, I go every week.
Every week.
Every week. Yep.
Good.
Yes. Yeah. Keep an eye on it. Some days or sometimes it's like okay, and sometimes like oh dear. This time it was fairly snowy.
Yep.
So we couldn't see much. There is a lot of water out there. I'm concerned with the rain we had last night and how much water is out there again. But there's not much we can do about it. But just slow down. Make
Yeah.
sure that the erosion controls, which they've been fixing. They've been keeping an eye on and fixing and adding hay bales and stuff out there. But I wanted to let you all know that these come in 17th. Yeah, January 17th. We got interim construction record plans, which they're calling, like we keep asking for revised plans. So they submitted
Yes.
us. They're 3 pages on a plan set that was about, I think, 9 to 12 pages. And they're not very detailed. They don't include some of the items that were on site. And there's still concerns with the retaining wall that's attached to the culvert. These plans don't show any detail, so what I have to go on is the approved set, which showed the retaining wall being a solid panels that were attached to the culvert.
Right.
That's not what's on site. It's loose block that's tied back, but it's not connected in any way to the culvert.
Is that a temporary wall? And
No,
You're waiting to
it's
do that?
not. It's
No.
not. And when I talked to Charlie, the building commissioner, he says, "Oh no, they told me they were going to build it behind it, so that it would back up against because it overhangs a little bit the culvert, so that first block of retaining wall would be behind the culvert, and it's not. It's flush. And the other one, the other side, they still have to fix." I've been keeping an eye on everything's going on with the planning board on their aspect of it because of their site plan and stormwater permits for the site. And they voted at their last meeting to request a site plan modification be submitted. So I wanted to put this on the agenda to see if the commission wanted to do something similar and request that they do an amended order of conditions for the site. I don't know what to do. We ask for revised plans, we get nothing. I get 3 plan sheets that, even in the letter, say things that are on site that aren't on the plans. So, it gets aggravating. So, I thought if the planning board did their request and if we did our request, it's coming from 2 different departments. It's essentially the same plan. So it's not like they have to do a whole lot to meet both of ours at the same time. And maybe we can actually get an amended order of conditions with amended plans and actually have a clear idea of what's on site, what's going in on site, that's different from the approved plans. Then that would then have to be submitted to National Heritage, and we can maybe finally get that letter that I've been asking for since July.
Right. So you want to get this on an agenda too?
I want to, so I have the update. I need to see if we can get that. See if we can get you guys to, do something.
So why not?
I mean, it's essentially listed in their special order of conditions that any revisions to the plans need an amended order of conditions. And I've kind of kept asking for it, and it's not getting anywhere. And now with the planning board requesting it, and then if I request it, and since it's in that special order of conditions, we have a little more teeth in the game in asking for that.
And I would say, because you have those pictures of the collapse of the wall,
Yep.
use that and say, because I could see GPR coming back and saying, because they push back on other projects for somebody else, another engineering thing about, why do we need an amended? This is just but this is, what they're doing is having greater adverse impact.
And
we've got those pictures.
Yeah, and I have pictures, I keep track of them.
Yeah.
From what they showed for plans, that retaining wall, I believe, is closer to the wetlands. Well, it's in the wetlands anyway, that's what they do replication area. That retaining wall is in the wetlands. They filled it in order to put that in. It appears to be closer than what was the approved plans. the approved plans show on, I think I have to call it, on the right side, 61.5 feet. I had Charlie double check with me because I'm like, I think I'm reading this wrong. That seems really long. And then these plans, it's far shorter, so I don't even know what the width of that retaining wall is on site. It seems to be closer than what was previously approved and what's shown on here. But again, I'm reading scales as best I can. There is a section by one of the trees that fell. There's one tree still standing. The water's coming up from the ground, and that started back in the beginning of November. It didn't happen all summer. And I just feel like if we get an amended order, somebody can tell me why that's happening. Because it just seems weird, because now we have to mediate that water that's coming up in what was a planted grass. We reseeded it and it was coming up nice grass. Now I got water bubbling up and it's eroding away the ground now. And I don't know where that water's coming from and why.
Right.
It's a real mystery.
It's going from the tree boxes that they never put the trees in.
Well, that stormwater's not done. Exactly. Is that the reason? So like, I just feel like I have so many concerns and so many things that are going on that site, and now with the planning board doing their part, then now I feel more comfortable about having you guys vote and make that an actual request coming from the commission without them saying I'm picking on them or whatever.
And we could do a whole nother site walk as a commission and also see the problem areas
Yeah.
directly. Yeah.
I feel like with that, then we have that amended order, I get someone out there to figure out where that water's coming from too.
Yeah. Okay with that, George? Mark? Everybody good to go with this?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, you want to put it on our next meeting?
Oh, they have to submit it.
You have to submit it, yeah. So I just wanted you guys, if you could do a vote, just so I can have it in the minutes, to make that request to them to do that special order of conditions per, I can't remember what amended order of conditions, I can't remember what number it is in the special order of conditions, that any changes to the plan are required to do that. So when I send that request to them, I'll list that condition, but I'll say that the board voted to do that request.
Okay, go ahead.
And given especially the issues, the clear issues with the culvert retaining wall.
Yeah, and then the guardrail that was put on top too. They installed the guardrail and put boulders up there and disturbed what was a stable slope. So I'm a little nervous about what's going to happen to that once the spring thaw comes.
Okay.
Any more discussion? Motion to request, how do I say this?
Motion to,
I wouldn't request though.
Motion
I would
to,
require,
require the applicant to submit a amended notice.
Amended order of we issued amended order. It's just amended
amended notice of intent.
notice of intent. Yes, thank you.
And then they get an amended order.
Then yes, thank you. Per the special conditions.
Good. Let's try that again.
Sorry, I'm thinking what I have to issue, but see, yeah, they did an
Read it back
amended
to us,
NOI.
Jess.
Motion to require that the applicant submit an amended notice of intent for Air Solar 2 per the special conditions of the order of conditions for,
DEP number 100-444.
Right off the top of your head.
Look at it all the time.
yeah, and I would then cite the particular condition.
Oh, yes, definitely. Because we'll get pushback from the lawyers.
That's what you said, George, you got it written.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay.
Awesome.
Passes unanimously.
Aye.
Thank you.
Oh, yes, thank you.
Is, is the environmental monitor on reduced schedule?
No,
visits?
nope.
Okay,
Nope, we go out every week.
because there's a lot still.
Yeah, they were out there, oddly enough, on Tuesday when we went out, plowing the driveway out so they could go out and work. I thought that was weird that they're going out working in snow cover. But we basically gave them suggestions on how to slow down the water and just to stabilize the erosion controls that are out there. So, and then there's sediment at the end of the culvert that appeared after that wall had collapsed, that there's so much standing water there, it's not gonna be, it's not moving, it's just piled up. It's not gonna be beneficial to try to disturb it at this point because there is, in some parts, it looks like there's 2 feet of water just
Wow.
standing there. And that was on Tuesday before we had the rain
Right.
from last night. So
A lot of rain last
there's a lot of water on that site,
Yeah, there is.
in that one area, yeah. So we keep looking at, so.
You're doing a great job keeping on this one.
Yes, you really
Oh, I'm
are.
trying. I'm hoping I'm not becoming a nuisance to anybody
No,
or
I
doing
hope- I hope
anything
you are
wrong,
being-
so,
Yeah.
I hope you are.
so,
I mean, if they were running a clean site that was in perfect order, that would be being a nuisance if you were going out all the time, but they're not running a clean site.
yeah, no, and I'm trying not to be like, well, it rained really much, a lot last night. I should go out and look at it. I'm like, no, I go out every Wednesday, I'll look at Wednesday, whatever it looks like now, I'll see it's fine. I'm just,
Yep. Anything else on Air Solar 2?
no, that is it. I did send the CR to Robert and Carly, and they sent it to town council. We
Okay.
haven't heard anything back yet on it.
Okay.
Okay, so that request was sent in, and we haven't heard back yet.
Very good.
Okay.
All right. That's enough of that for tonight, huh? All right, the next item is a discussion on the potential wetland regulation additions and modifications.
Yes. So I gave you guys my suggestions last meeting.
Yep.
Just for giggles, I started typing them, adding them into our regulations we have now, in anticipation that you'd be fine with adding those. I started doing that today, and I just I wanted to have it on here so we could start thinking about having that public hearing so we can get those few additions I had already drafted on there and see if you wanted to move forward with anything in regards to the vegetation removal and replacement part, the plan requirements part, and the climate change resiliency part. Or leave those for another time in a few months.
The ones that you hear in the packet today, are they the same as what was
Yep.
from last month? Okay.
They sure are.
Or last meeting, sorry.
So are we looking at the 2 pages?
Mm-hmm. Yep, so there's the general provisions with the advice from town staff, the application procedures, which includes the site inspections that states we will not, applications be deemed incomplete if we can't do a site inspection due to snow or lack of vegetation. The performance standards, which specifically spell out that we are allowed to put bond, covenant, and other sureties on site. A construction sequence that must be provided for all applications. Another one for advice from the commission that states it's just a suggestion, it's not legally binding. Those are the ones that are nice just to put in there, and then the ones that to look at for either another time or that need more work into is looking at the plan requirements, the climate change resiliency, and the vegetation removal and replacement, which I did finally get all the language cleaned up from Jess for the tree policy, and I sent it to Robert and Carly to see if they wanted council to review it first, knowing it's not really legally binding, and I haven't heard from them yet. I'll poke them again about it tomorrow
Okay.
before we get it on the website.
Okay.
And then I'll probably end up drafting another one for a couple other things once that one gets the okay from them.
Yep.
On sheds and pumping water for irrigation.
Okay. Very good.
Okay?
Mhm.
But, so I didn't know if you wanted to do anything with these this evening, that's why I wanted to throw it, I threw it actually on the agenda, since we had a fairly light one, we could discuss it further.
On page 2, the sequence of construction,
Yeah,
can you provide a little bit more detail on that? Because I think detail to the extent of explaining that we don't need a lot of detail.
okay,
So what I mean by that is, I deal with construction folks all day that, this guy plans it and says we're going to do it this way, and then the guy that's actually there on site does something totally different.
Okay.
Yeah.
So those kinds of things are happening all the time, and you're saying that they would need the commission's approval and everything. So
yeah.
That
And
could
again, this is just one that
definitely
I
hold up
found
stuff.
in another town, I'm like, oh, that sounds kind of good, that'd be nice to have, because then we wouldn't have had what happened at Air Solar 2 happen, where, we had a roadway roughed in, solar array put in, and now we're trying to backtrack again. If I had a construction sequence of what was going to go on site, then I could hold them to it.
Right, and that's what I'm just saying. It's like, if it's high level like that
Yeah.
versus.
So do we want to
okay,
make
so
it
day
for?
one we're going to put in row 1 and 2 of, like, I don't know
Okay.
exactly. Just kind of explain like what
Okay.
level of detailing you might be saying, and maybe it's like major major.
Major, yeah, it's more or less
Sequence
major
stuff.
sequences. Yeah, like when we do,
Yeah.
if Stratton Hill was going to be majority.
Yeah,
in
not
in
opposed to it. Just I guess provide a little bit more
Yeah.
context around it.
that. Okay, I can look into that.
Yeah, and, because I know some of that also gets covered in pre-construction meetings with you and
Yeah.
DPW and stuff, but.
Yep.
But would this be an area we could also add in a few details, like wetland replication areas generally should be started
Yes.
early?
Yeah, and actually
That's
in
the type of stuff I was.
in our
Yeah.
regulations itself, there is a wetland mitigation section 7.
Yeah.
And it has mitigation requirements, and I feel like we could always add that into that section that states replication areas must be done.
Yeah. Did we take that out? Because I kind of thought we had left that in.
Oddly enough, so the hard thing is I couldn't find this approved on the computer anywhere, so I actually had to take yours comments that was on the computer, and I've been drafting this copy that's on the town's website
Okay.
into a Word document using that. So, 'cause that's what we had. That's what I could find.
Okay.
So I can double check that, but no, I think that's a good place to add that, Jess, or we can verify that it's not in there. And if it's not, that we should place that in there, that the replication area. But again, I don't know to what extent you want to have construction going on with dust while you have a wetland replication area trying to grow.
But if we could put it in as a general requirement unless waived, specifically waived by the commission,
Right.
Okay.
then that gives us the review.
Okay. So you want it like constructed as soon as possible, right?
Yeah,
Okay. And then, okay.
and George, you remember years ago, Bill had wanted stormwater structures and basins to be done early in the sequence.
Okay.
Is there anything we could add here? Or
Well, stream
try to add?
crossings and stuff, that would be something you'd want to do first too,
Yeah.
yeah.
I mean, isn't that part of the infrastructure when they generally put that in?
One would
at the
hope.
beginning anyways?
But we had at
You would hope.
Pingree Hill, we had, they sold some properties, so homeowners had moved in. And then there was one case, 2 years later, suddenly people from the development company, were running around starting to clear trees on somebody's property.
Okay.
Due to the a separate order that included part of that property
Oh.
for putting a basin in, and the homeowners were like, they sued us or something. There was a complaint, but it was because there were 2 different orders: the house order for the property, and then the infrastructure order, which covered multiple properties.
Okay.
But the basin wasn't going to be put in until after you already have people living in those houses who didn't know that was going to happen.
Surprise.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, so what we
Well,
can
that's how we
do,
did. But that's how we did Panther Place, didn't we? Didn't we? Didn't we do an order for the infrastructure?
that's
and then
what you
we're gonna
do.
do separate for
and
the homes.
that's what you
Yeah.
have to do, yes. Yeah, that's the easiest
How's
way
that
to do
any
it.
different?
What
Or
we're
do we
stating,
screw
well, I
it
think what Jess is getting at when we do the construction sequence, we add to this that with your level of detail that we're looking, that the commission is requiring that replication areas and stormwater stream crossings be done in the project as soon as possible. So before,
Practicable.
so before, you know what I mean, so before you're getting to, you're doing, and then same thing with like Panther Place, you knew you issued that one for the infrastructure,
Right.
and then you did the one for this, so then you can condition that one for the houses, stating that construction on that can't start until you know the infrastructure and the other one's done, because you have it in your regulations that you're asking them to do those first,
Okay.
type of thing.
Yeah.
Is what I'm thinking. When you have the two like that, you just do it that way.
Okay.
And then that's your special order conditions that go on all your houses at that point.
Right.
But
And
we
it
can
might
add that
not
in the
be a
construction
final
sequence.
road or anything, but the roughed in
Yeah.
stuff needs to be done, at least, so you have an infrastructure order that covers roads and all that.
Yeah.
But also it covers stormwater basins that go onto private properties.
Yeah, and
Then
that's.
you want.
And I
some
think
sort of
that's
review
the big part of it too, because
Okay.
we'd
so we can have a
probably
discussion.
get pushback on it, because they'll do temporary basins while they're doing construction.
Mhm.
But if we add in there that it's ones on private property,
Yeah,
then that covers us from them saying, oh, but we just do temporary ones when they're doing large scale. But if the ones on private property
Right.
must be done first with stormwater basins, that'll cover
Yeah.
that part.
Okay.
Question about the bonds.
Yes.
Is that sort of as dependent on individual?
It's an individual
Projects?
project. Yeah, we don't require them for every project, but this gives us the language to say that we have the right to. It becomes muddled when it comes to conservation. Planning board has under subdivision control law the ability to put surety and bonds up. Conservation doesn't have that in the Wetlands Protection Act as much.
We do in our bylaw.
We do in our bylaw.
Section 10.
In this, yeah, we do in our bylaw, and I read that, and this spells it out that we can do whichever one we'd like.
Yep.
It's not just we can require surety. This says we can put a covenant, we can put a bond, depending on the project, or both.
Or you want to add in though, we also had said conservation restriction was a different way. So look at section 10 in our local bylaw.
Uh-huh.
So we had so you want to have them in agreement.
Yes.
So we had talked about a proper bond. We hadn't done a covenant.
So we can always be covenant and then also add in
But we
CR.
also said by second method of so the security was by accepting a conservation restriction executed and duly recorded, blah, blah, blah.
Okay, I mean, I can always add
Yeah.
a third one onto that says conservation
Yes, you
restriction.
want them to.
Yeah, I can do that. That's no problem. I read it real quick, but I saw that it was in there and that it wasn't very detailed. So I'm like, oh, I have it in there so I can detail it. But that gives us the opportunity to do that, gives us more teeth in order to allow that.
Yeah.
And it's not saying that we're going to, it's just if we get a large subdivision that's going in with a big stream crossing or replication areas, we can bond those items in case they're not done.
Is that done through town council?
How's that done?
Yeah. how's that done?
So it's a part of your approval process. So it's in our regulations or in or the bylaw that we're allowed to ask for it. So when it comes to the final approval, before you issue your order of conditions, you tell them. So what they do in the planning board is they have to give a list of what the cost is going to be to finish the project, or they put up a bond amount of, say it's a I don't remember what they did on. He did that. So they do subdivisions. They pick some godly amount.
Is it like a percentage?
You know what I mean? They pick an ungodly amount and they put it up a bond.
Yep.
And then what happens is as the construction starts, they can come back, or a covenant, and then they can come back to release that covenant, which they hold land or money, and reduce it by putting up a bond to finish the project. With a punch list of items that need to get done, that is then reviewed by DPW to ensure that amount's correct.
Okay.
And you put the covenant on the entire property while it's being constructed. As work gets going and they're finishing up, then they come back to post a bond. Or if it's a smaller project, you would just post a bond.
Yep.
Or you might ask town council if, since our bylaw doesn't use the language of covenant, could we do that
Uh-huh.
in regulations?
Yeah.
Or
Yeah, oh yeah, no, all these will have to go to town council for review before we approve them.
On the,
Because I said I just threw them in sections too, they might read it and go, that doesn't belong there, it should go here, okay.
on the advice from commission,
Yes.
the last three words.
Yeah.
So instead of saying any prior suggestions or advice offered to applicants, can we just say any prior suggestions or advice discussed?
Yeah.
Because it could be something that maybe Jess and I are having a conversation in a public hearing or something like that, and they might take that as gospel, and it's like,
Yeah,
well,
and that's
we never
and
really
that's
told you that. We were just talking about it.
yeah, and that's what those two do. The
Right.
advice from town staff and the advice from commission. It covers anything that you say that wasn't in a formal vote or a formal hearing to be
Yeah.
covered from.
Okay.
And then, going back to Bill in the old days, George, but we were always hesitant to offer suggestions, design suggestions, anything like
Yeah.
that, because then, even though you have a caveat, how much do we own it if it's the bad advice? I don't know, what do you think, George?
Where is this? That you're-
Under the
It's
advice
the
from the
advice from
commission.
town says says the commission may offer suggestions and advice for altering plans and proposals to reduce the impact on the wetland values and modifications. However, that it's not.
Okay.
I guess I would vote for keeping it in merely because I don't know. I have a tendency to pontificate about different things and say, well, what if you did this and what if you did that? And
Yeah.
I guess that provides us a little bit of protection. I'd take it rather than having no protection at all.
Yeah. Would we want to put in, I'm not sure, a caveat that, it would, if they made substantial changes, would still need to be engineered or approved by an
Yeah.
engineer or something like that?
Well, I think that's going to be without. That just, I mean, we already have that written somewhere that it's,
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. That's
It's
in the
gonna have
special
to
order
be-
conditions that it has to, any substantial
anything
changes
that
have
they
to
do,
go.
yeah, it's going to have to be covered there.
Okay.
I mean, the council may come back with that same language, Jess.
Right.
Or they might say,
Okay.
no, don't put that in there, it opens you up for stuff, so,
Right.
okay.
Yeah.
Who knows? You never know how,
Well,
I don't know what town I took this from, what town council they have, so.
Yep.
They may have allowed it, and ours might be like, no, don't do that, so.
Under the site inspections on the first page.
Yep.
That might, you say, you might want to specifically reference ANRADs. So say something like, unless specifically waived by the commission. This goes back to something George said, right? That the commission generally does not review ANRADs over the winter.
Mm-hmm.
Or it's not just ANRADs, I mean,
Anything.
Yeah, okay.
Well, I think what it is, because I got this from the town of Littleton,
Yeah.
and when I was over there, we basically said, yeah, we don't do site inspections in the winter. You
Right.
can't, in snow cover, you can't see anything, which they didn't have regulations then, which doesn't become, you can't legally do that. You can say that, but someone can press you and they have to allow you to do that. So I think that's why they put that in there, because it was always like an unwritten rule, like policy. That's what they did. You just can't do a site inspection in snow
Okay.
cover.
Okay, that's good then, as is.
Yeah. So I think that's why they got put in there, because it was just an unwritten rule, and then they're like, oh, we should probably have regulations that state that.
So where it says in the first sentence where it says for which an application has been submitted,
Mm-hmm.
that would cover anything,
Anything.
correct? Be it,
NRAD,
I
order
want
condition,
a certificate of
NOI,
compliance,
Yep.
I want, yeah, okay, thank you.
covers anything that comes in. It would cover an administrative approval, that's an application that comes in.
Okay.
Yeah, okay.
And it also states that the site visit has to be scheduled by the commission during a meeting. It's none of this, oh, we're running short on time, can you poll them and see if we can get it to come out? No, it says in here that you'll schedule it.
Yeah, okay.
So that covers that part of it too, that we're not trying to do these emails and phone calls between each other to get a site visit done. It states that they'll be done. I think it says during a meeting. If it doesn't, I'll throw that part in there. Yeah, the discretion of the commission. So I mean, if you want, we could throw that in there at a meeting, or just we'll leave it at discretion of the commission,
Leave it rolling.
Yeah. and then that way we have that in there, that we're not trying to scramble. And I can be, well, I can ask them. They say, no, we want to do it at the meeting. No, it says it's in the regulation.
Okay.
So, covers that part of it too.
All right,
Anything else?
that's good for so far, thank you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Did you want to put in this version the thing about the plans being submitted. and
Yeah, that was the
colors.
plan requirement, so those sections tend to be about a page to 2 pages long.
Okay.
So that's why I gave you guys some suggestions and
Oh, very great.
to look at, just to get an idea of what you're looking to put in there, because it's a page and a half or so long for the plan requirements, because they'll go through locus, scale size, compass,
Right.
what needs to be on there. As far as detail, I think one plan should be submitted in color. They should have to do a PDF file along with hard copies.
Yeah.
Just simple items like that, but as far as the plan details, it can get quite intensive on what they're looking for. So that section, I think, needs to be looked at more closely, and what you want to see from what on there. If you want me to try to draft, mix and match some that I can find to get one that will work for the town, or if you want to give me some suggestions on what you want to see, and I'll draft it from there, we'll do that. But it's a lengthy section of the regulations. That's the plan requirements.
Yeah, I like your suggestion on the color.
Yeah.
So as long
makes-
as that works, and then if
Makes it so much
it's
easier to
in
see.
alignment with the planning board, I think we're probably, good to go.
Okay.
So,
Yeah,
if
I
you want
don't
to
know.
take a shot at it,
Yeah.
definitely.
Okay.
So the sheet you gave us revisions to chapter 344.
Yeah, that's a different town. So that was a town.
Yeah,
Yeah.
another town. So I thought that was a pretty good one.
Yeah.
I would include that. The one I was hesitant to think about was vegetation removal. and
Yeah, that
replacement.
was one I was like, well, we're looking at doing the tree policy. Should we throw that in yet? I'm like, maybe we should wait and see what the tree policy looks like, because I was reading how Arlington and Lunenburg had theirs, and I'm like, oh, that seems so muddled, and I don't know how well it's working. When I spoke to a couple other towns that said they don't put it in their regulations or bylaw because they had too much pushback on it, and that's
Yeah.
why they only had the policy. So
Is that supposed to be everywhere, or just
What?
within wetlands, or within jurisdiction?
it's just in our jurisdiction.
Yeah, but I was.
Yeah, it's the only thing I can put caveats on is in our jurisdiction.
Yeah, but then we also go to, did we not include, or are we still working on the, acceptable tasks and doings and goings on within our jurisdiction, within the wetlands and stuff like that, where
Like the weekend
we don't need a,
projects coming
Minor
up.
the weekends,
I
thank
think
you.
that was the administrative form, wasn't it?
Yeah, it's the administrative approval.
Yeah,
So-
I mean, you almost potentially might start to be conflicting.
So the administrative approval is more or less, so when we do that, I do, it's mostly for trees, that tree politics that hasn't posted yet. When I go out and do those, I ask the question. They're all, the ones I've done recently have been dead, they're almost all dead, dying trees. So they're not, I ask if they're gonna replace them, I get a no. I ask the arborist on site, I'm like, can you leave a snag tree? Sometimes the answer is yes, sometimes it's no. It's not always 6 feet, sometimes it's only 2 or 3 feet. So
But in the
everything
weekend
in that
stuff-
everything in that policy,
Yeah.
I've been asking on site, and I have gotten a few snag trees saved out on site
Okay.
since I started drafting that and looking into it.
But in the weekend project thing, did we not say that we were allowing, like,
We didn't do that one.
planting? We didn't do that at all?
Nope.
Well, we had to, the regulations we had to do fast because Panther Place was going to be coming right up. We wanted to get them enacted.
Hmm.
And that gave us that, no touch area.
Yeah.
And the
weekend
stuff was really more for homeowners, so
Yeah.
to be set aside for
Yes, I think that one requires more thought. Because I know looking at some of the other towns where they said, no vegetation in a resource area shall be damaged, extensively pruned or removed without written
Yeah.
permission. And it's like, I was looking at actually, on my bank, there's a big tree shrub thing. I'm not sure what it is, but it's progressively going further down into the pond. And it's like, I was thinking, I need to get rid of that. And then so I can imagine a lot of people
Mm-hmm.
in town.
Yeah, and
So
that's when I
what
say when it's the policy, and since it's not
It's like,
enforceable,
well,
so
I
it's
can't
fine.
do this in my yard.
And then in turning it into a regulation, it's like, okay, I probably have to modify this because
Yeah.
I can't require everyone to replace a tree or shrub that they cut down, because they're just gonna do it and have to catch them, and that's gonna be a hassle. So it'd have to be a certain perimeter on that, because then anyone who, decides to maybe have the house just sold on Oak Ridge across from Jeff Tillotson, and I've been meeting with their homeowner a couple times on what they want to do in clearing out the site, and it's like, yeah, go right ahead. You want to? Because I didn't have anything on the books. I'm like, you gonna plant anything else? I'm like, no. Okay. It's really overgrown. I said, yeah, the property is pretty overgrown, and that's fine. It's on the opposite, so it's on the house. That's on the front of the house, and the pond's on that side, and the pond's on the other side. So it's not anywhere beneficial to the pond. So it's like, so the more I think of that area, it probably be more when we're looking at a certain size, looking at a subdivision, and having those requirements in there for those things, so we don't have these clear-cut lots when we're doing subdivisions, and less on a homeowner that's just cleaning up their yard or taking a sick tree or 2 trees down. The ones on Calvin that they might do, there's 3 trees that are between 2 houses that are 15 feet apart from each other.
Yeah. But remember,
where are they going to replace those? There's no room to.
The people that are going to squawk about it are going to be the people that are the homeowners, because the developers, they're going to go through everything they got to do normally,
Yeah.
and they'll make it happen.
Yeah.
But it's going to be the ones
Yeah.
you're going to.
And that's where.
But if the Ayer is the homeowner.
Yeah. So that's it's. So I gotta play around with that whole section of it too a lot more and see what we get for requests in the office, to see if it's something that's feasible to do, or if it's something I just keep poking and asking for, and see if that works.
Yep.
Remember when we were first working on the bylaw way back, I guess about five or 6 years ago. And you came to some of those meetings up in town hall.
I squawked.
You what?
I squawked.
He squawked. And I know there were a lot of people in one of the meetings up in the Great Hall who were like, if I want to, cut plants or replace a shrub, we have to go to conservation. And Bill at the time was like, yes. And,
Yeah.
and I think you were squawking as well as other people. And so I think you want to be really.
Yeah, then that's what I'm saying. Like, ooh,
Before.
yeah, maybe I want to wait on that one. That's why I'm like, I'll just throw it in there and get you guys' thought on it. But yeah, definitely the plan requirements, and I can try working on the next few weeks on trying to get something together for the plan requirements section. But it's gonna take some time on that one.
Yeah.
But yeah, the colored plants, so we had that requirement in the, and I looked at their regulations, it's not in there. I'm like, I had it before, and it made the plants so much easier to read.
Do we also, would we want to put in as a regulation here something about the drawing water from the ponds? For
Yeah, so
private
that's one of
irrigation?
the, I was thinking of putting a policy in place for that, but we could do a regulation that states that, in my opinion, I don't think we should allow it, but I know we have some that have been previous, which there is that in the regulations, that anything that's in place prior to these regulations is exempt. So
Yeah.
in my opinion, I don't think we should allow people to do that. I think it's gonna be a hard, fast, one to try to control that, because I do know that there are some people that do it that haven't got permission from the commission in the past. So I was gonna see if we could do something as a policy on that one and see how that flew before we put in a regulation, but I have no problem making a regulation for it if you guys want. I just haven't found a town that has one yet to try to borrow one from, but I can draft something. Just because water's gonna be a precious resource.
So
sooner
when
than later.
does rainwater running off your property that you're not able to have a barrel, but decide to use the pond as your rain barrel? When will that now become an argument, right?
Yeah.
Especially
Well,
especially if the person owns out into the pond.
I have a
let's
kiddie
say.
pool that I
Yeah.
stick in the yard and then use that.
How about this one?
Yeah, there's a bunch of people that do.
Yeah, there is. There are people that have their property lines into the water.
Yeah.
But again, just because you own it doesn't mean you're
Doesn't
allowed.
mean you can do whatever you want, because this is America, right?
Have you the Clean Water Area? You have the Riverfront Act, and you have all those Clean Water Act, and
Oh yeah.
oddly enough, federal law, nobody can own a beach. So if the water touches the sand, you're allowed to walk on it, and nobody owns that. It's federal law.
Unless you have a sale receipt for the sand that you would put there.
No,
Because it might not have
so
been
you
there
have
before.
like private beach clubs
We
that
don't
own
have
up to
that.
a certain point, but anything that the water
Yeah.
touches is actually federally protected as public space. Fun fact.
Interesting.
How's
Yeah.
this for one to consider? And this, I think, could be a regulation, but I talked to Dan Van Shelquick about it.
Yeah.
We periodically get these companies coming in who start drawing water from the ponds for their hydro seeding.
Hydro seeding.
Yeah.
And I know there is one, I think one over by Rosewood, they came to an agreement with Dan, with the DPW to draw water from the DPW site.
Mm-hmm.
Well, so I don't know, I talked to Dan to see if
I
there's-
would think if that's something that we do, we'd have to do a regulation that they'd have to get a permit to do that.
Right, so this might be, because I wouldn't worry about Air residents for this. This is usually outside companies
Yeah.
coming in and, but to have some ability to oversee, so they're not having spillover of
Mhm.
seed into the
Yeah.
water bodies that they're trying to.
But again, if we would allow people to do that, they'd be like, well, why can't I, as a resident of town, pull water out to water my lawn? And my excuse would be, why do you need a green lawn?
Well, the hydro seeding company, they could be specifically worded for,
Yeah, yeah, and then that might be a hard one though, to get past. To see if we get, I mean, I've never seen a request for, like, I've asked Dan how many requests he gets on his end for it. If it's something
Yeah.
that's like 2 every like 5 years, it's not a point in adding a regulation. It's
Yeah.
something that happens so frequently.
I know we had some complaints last spring before you started from some company over by the entrance to Shaker Mill Pond. That resident on the corner where the
Okay.
road turns complained that they were out there drawing water. This outside company was out
Okay.
there drawing water.
Okay.
Well, isn't part of the argument that they would rather draw the water from the area that they're gonna be using the water?
Yeah, I mean, the other argument for that is it's more damaging to roads and transportation costs if they have to carry a full tank of water from 30 miles away into a town.
Right.
But I don't know if there's, because remember over by Nemco Way or that area years ago, we saw this, gross in the water, and you could see the residue from a hydro seeding company. So I don't know, maybe.
I mean, I'm sure if I looked at towns of like Concord or Lexington or Lincoln, I probably could find something in theirs that would have something language like that in.
Maybe run it by Dan and see.
Yeah.
if he had any
I can do
suggestions.
that. I can ask Dan about that. That's an interesting
What
one.
was the one over by the? Remember that Joanne found that they spilled something or whatever. They had to-
Rosewood,
was that Rosewood?
yeah,
Where they were?
yeah.
They had the hose going across the boards and blah 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 whatever to suck the water out.
I
That was
think one was there. There might have been a
Part of
second
it
one.
was, National Grid too.
Yeah.
Yeah, actually, that's right. Yeah, now that I think about it, I think it was a subcontractor for grid. I thought.
Yeah.
I forget. Was that for drill? Or maybe it was for drilling.
Mm.
That
Soil
might have been
boring,
Test
maybe?
bores, you mean?
Yeah, soil test bore. So
Yeah. Yeah.
I think that may have been it.
Okay. Okay. Something to think about.
Anyways, okay. What do we got?
Okay.
All done?
Anything else with that?
More updates?
Unless you guys have anything else to add to that, I'll work on
Okay.
those plans and some of those comments and bring another draft forward. Do you want me to take the ones that we have gone through? Is there any of them on here that you want me to see to run through council so they're good to go when we do decide to hold a public hearing, or do you want to do them all together?
I do them all together
Okay.
if they're going to town council.
Okay. All right. Very good. I'll work on another draft for the next time. No problem.
Any conservation office updates?
Oh, I have any other updates? Let's see. I told you about the CR for Air Solar 2. I told you about I sent the tree policy. There's 2 other items. I don't know if any of you had seen the town clerk's office is starting to do a newsletter. I don't know how often she's going to do those and things that are happening on in town. And it got me thinking of possibly doing something similar to that, maybe in the spring and fall for conservation. That basically states like a reminder, oh, it's spring, summertime's coming, whatever. Be sure of, people living on the, whether we specify it for just people living on one of the lakes in town and what it is that you can and can't do over there, or as in a town in general, and then same thing in the fall in regards to where a vacant lot doesn't mean you can dump your leaves there, type of thing. So something to think about, because I thought of that after the fact when I saw people dumping leaves near like James Brook Way and stuff like, oh, poop, it's too late now to do that, but I should think of that for next year. So, or whether just to get a hold of Susan, the town clerk, in regards to when she does her newsletters, if she'd let me, once or twice a year, throw a little blurb in there from the Conservation Commission.
Sure, just tack something over there.
Yeah, and then
Conservation corner.
yeah, exactly, Conservation Corps, there we go.
I did notice when she listed all the town departments that we were not there.
I wasn't there on any of them
No.
until you got to the phone numbers. It was
Yeah.
2 spaces that got left out.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, it's not personal. I know it's not personal, but I feel like, what did I do? Why did everyone forget about me?
Why me?
And then the other item I was looking at doing, since we're in a slow period and I'm looking at regulations. I've had some thoughts about recycling and trash and plastic bags and looking at approaching the Board of Health with environmental concerns on maybe possibly changing their regulations or looking at doing a plastic bag ban and bringing that forward to the Board of Health and as behalf of the Conservation Commission of looking to do these things. And same with the Planning Board in regards to creating regulations on their part, and I can help them do that for low impact development requirements as part of their site plan subdivision approvals. I would just need to go to their meeting and give them some information on those because some of them don't know what low impact development entails and how the regulations would work. So I was just wondering what your all thoughts are on myself doing that as representative to the commission to these other boards and looking to get them to create some regulations that would help overall environment standards in town.
Well, it seems like a honorable thing to do, but that's it all end. But I don't know. I have a really hard time with plastic bags. I mean, where do you stop? Every time I go to the dump, it's like, okay, well, I'm going to put my trash into a plastic bag.
Yeah, no, and I mentioned something to Carly about it because she said that was the complaint that I think it was Lori Sable brought it to the select board before COVID, that was the issue there, saying everyone uses the plastic bags for, cat litter and stuff like that. There is a plastic bag ban from what I can tell in Pepperell where I live. I went one time to the pizza shop and they gave me a plastic bag, but it was a biodegradable one. So they do make them, and stores do have them. So it comes to the fact where when you look at in town this size, what businesses would a plastic bag ban affect?
Yep.
Right now we have one small grocery store and just several convenience stores that probably do very rarely those, and same thing with pizza shops and stuff. So would it be an overall large impact to request that and then make that an option that there is those biodegradable plastic bags that you could still do? Would that make it, the burden on that I don't think would be too great.
Yeah.
Because it is so small now before anything larger does come in.
Right.
I mean, you have the advanced again, the auto parts store. I mean, who's walking out of an auto parts store usually with a plastic bag? Not many people.
Mm-hmm.
Same thing with the hardware store. Usually, you're not coming out with
Right.
bags of stuff, right? It's usually just a couple things. So I don't think it would be a huge impact.
You used to drive me crazy during during the pandemic, because you couldn't bring in your own bags.
Yeah.
We had a pile of bags at home bigger
Yeah.
than me.
Exactly, and it's frustrating. You have all those, and then you look at the other thing is that the Board of Health, and I kind of threw this in my own 2 cents into the 40B decision, the requirement that, and we tried with the Board of Health before, so I'm kind of thinking if I can do it again, to require multifamily units that have dumpsters to also require recycling.
To require what?
Recycling, you can have two
okay.
containers, one that's recycling and one that's not, or whether we get a hold with the DPW and have some way where we can get a recycling only transfer station sticker that's cheaper, which again, it's not gonna help, it's not gonna solve the problem. But like where I live, I just have one dumpster, and every time I look in it, there's just piles of plastic, like recyclable plastic, like soda bottles, because it's just easier to throw it in the trash than have to go to a recycling center. So people who live where there's dumpsters and not, curbside, that's what they're doing, even though legally they're not supposed to.
They compost.
My daughter's place just.
I
got
want
this.
to do composting, and I have to look into it. There's actually a company that will, and I think Groton uses it, so I gotta get hold of somebody in Groton, that'll come by and you can rent the container, and they'll come by and collect it and then give you soil back. So if I could find that, I could just set the word out. And then in regards to that too, I'm one of these crazy people that I don't use plastic in any of my cleaning products for the most part. And there's websites and stuff I buy this stuff. And everybody at town hall, and I mentioned to like, oh, you should put something out that says that. So I just wanted to let you know that I'll probably be doing that and see if it, maybe I can put something on the town's website that's like, oh, if you want some earth-friendly, plastic-free places to look at, here's some websites to look at. Because I use all bar shampoo and conditioner and soap, and I've tried the tablet for toothpaste. I can't get into it. But yeah, and all my cleaning products are in concentrated glass bottles that go in a glass spray bottle and stuff like that. So.
Did you go to Deborah's Natural Gourmet?
What?
Deborah's Natural Gourmet in West Concord. They've got a bulk store
No.
now. You can go in with your containers and just fill them up.
Yes, so that's,
Soaps and-
well, if I won the lottery, I'd want to open a package free store in Ayer, which does stuff like that. Yeah, oh god, yeah, that's where I buy a lot of my stuff from package free stores that online and stuff. So yeah, so just as a courtesy to let you know that if you'd be alright if I maybe put some sort of like on the website of just some suggestions people can go to if they're looking for that stuff. Okay, before I went ahead and did it. Okay, that's it. That's all I got. That's
Any number updates?
I just saved Deborah's Natural Gourmet as a want to go. So thank you for that.
There's a there's one in
That's my update.
Bolton too on 117.
On Old Sandy Palmer Road, you put in a no dumping sign, no dumping,
Okay.
and I put it in
Mhm.
because obviously people are dumping.
Yeah.
It's gone.
Someone stole
It's
it.
gone.
Yeah, it's gone.
Someone stole a sign.
Well, they just ripped it out of the ground, threw it in the pond so they can dump more. But I have no clue. There's
On Old Sandy Pond
it's not
Road.
there. But I noticed too that there's a number of no dumping signs. DPW, I guess.
Yeah.
Bolted to trees. I mean, I think that's what we.
Okay. I had
we
a
could do.
It's on the
contact.
town lot, right?
On the town lot.
Yeah, I had a contact in about something else. I'll ask him that, especially while you're here. Have you noticed Flanagan Pond being higher than normal?
Oh man, it's way high.
Okay.
Yeah, and
Okay,
Sandy Pond is too.
Okay. I had somebody send me an email on that, so I asked Dana if he could check and see if an outlet or something was blocked, if he was going to have someone do that.
And I was
Because I drove by too. I'm like, I think it looks high.
It's high.
But I asked Jeff Tilson. He goes, no, it's not. I'm like, looks a little high to me, but we'll ask John too.
Did they confirm like they removed the boards this fall?
I did. Which boards was that?
The mulch.
Yes. Yeah, they did.
They did?
It's just a lot of water.
And we've had a lot of, because in it, what I think it
We're at
is
13 inches.
We-
in the summer of 8.
because the ground's thawing and freezing and thawing and freezing, and then we have all this rain, and then we have snow, but the ground's not 100% frozen. Like, it's doing some wonky things.
Yeah.
This would be much better if it was all just snow until March.
And 2
Okay.
degrees, but you know.
We'll do that.
Okay, then thank you
Maybe
for
people are
verifying
just
that.
stockpiling their water so they can water their lawns later this summer.
Yeah.
They should,
Right?
you know,
Start sucking the water out, storing it. We're gonna
55-gallon drums.
bang.
And the RFP
Get some.
went out, right? You said-
Yes, yep, the RP went out.
Anything else?
Can we ask the DPW to plow out the parking area for Pine Meadow?
I will ask them to do that too. I noticed that Tuesday, I go, oh, no one's plowed that, but I'll ask, I'm like, I wonder who does that? Thank you, I will ask Dan to do that too. He's gonna get tired of hearing. I'm like, hey, could you just?
Yeah.
But yeah, he's gonna also look at the
Signs.
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 Just prior to this, sent the email to Kristen. Looks like it's 2850 a sign to get new Flanagan Pond signs. So
Mhm.
Kim sent me the file, PDF file, the properly spelled sign. So I attached that to the email to Kristen. Please go ahead, print the signs, send us the bill. Well, Kim sent us the bill for making the sign file PDF. So cross our fingers, hopefully we'll see something soon. If they can't be delivered to Ayer DPW, I'll figure out another way of picking them up or whatever. I forget where they are. I think they're down southish towards like 495, like where 24 comes together, somewhere down there maybe, I thought. I'll figure it out. But it's in motion. Hopefully we'll get them soon and we can go rebuild some signs.
Get them swapped out. That's the easy part.
Yeah.
That's the fun part. We should just pound in some new supports just for fun.
Yeah, what the heck?
Jen wants to.
Yeah.
I've been working on
I think that's it. The
it. You
only
do have to pick them up. I'm down there relatively easily, so.
okay, all right.
Okay.
Yeah, that area is stuck in my head. I could be totally wrong. It could be like out by North Adams, as far as I know. I
Oh,
can't
then
remember.
absolutely not. But down south, like.
It always seems like everything seems to be over there for some reason,
Yeah.
and I don't get there that often. So it's like, why? You know. But just with regards to like your, going around seeing Air Solar 2 and everything.
Yes,
Have you been out at all? Do we look at like 56 Littleton Road? Do we look at Panther Place?
Panther Place
like,
is
just
not
anything else.
isn't doing anything through the winter. They closed
Okay.
it up, and I inspected it before that. And I asked the contractor for that if they would do that 56.
the one up basically next to the Pepsi
The
property
John Carroll Reserve.
is
Oh,
yeah.
that one up there. I
Yeah.
haven't gone through that.
I mean, it's almost done, but I
It
was
is
just
almost
curious.
done. Yeah, no, I haven't gone through and looked at it. Looked at that. Their house, but there wasn't any houses that had any conditions, right? Everything was pulled
I don't
outside,
remember.
as far as I remember.
Yeah, I just don't remember. I just was wondering.
I think it was just the infrastructure stormwater that may or may not
should
have
we
been
be
in the
making
100
sure
foot.
like any dirt piles or anything are covered properly?
I
and all that
will
kind of
talk to
garbage?
Charlie tomorrow
Okay.
and ask him if he has any, because he's out there pretty regularly. I think he said
Okay.
the site's been fairly clean. I did get a complaint last week about someone saying that it was excavators down at Madigan. So I drove down and I didn't see anything. It was literally within like 20 minutes of getting the message.
Yeah.
There's no evidence
Yeah,
of
like what's
anything.
going on at the Shaker Mill development.
And
that's
I looked at the Shaker Mill development, and that thing is just it's
Okay.
clean as can be.
Just curious,
National Grid.
National Grid, I
They've
get,
been making a big mess.
What?
I said, they got a big hole up in the area there.
yeah,
Lots of mud and rut.
yeah, I'll have to go by and I'll get a hold of the monitors for that, and especially with the rain we had, to see if I can get an update on their reports.
Neshoba, what are they down the street here? The Board of Health,
Yes,
their parking lot. Like, weren't they supposed to do stuff along the intermittent there or
I-
whatever?
Yeah, they never
Yep.
did.
they never did it.
Well, it's paved.
Is it paved?
Oh,
I'll
yeah.
ask Bridget Monday.
Okay.
Yeah, Bridget's in on Monday. I'll ask her what happened with that. I'll make note. She's in the office Mondays.
And while we're at it, asking about all everything, anything about Zero Central Ave? Have we heard, like, what's the result?
No, that's.
So that's a good question. And occasionally that gets brought up at our land use meetings. The last one that got mentioned, and there hadn't been anything from town council on that. My suggestion to you folks, I don't know how much of that they would let me know, since it wasn't in the position when that occurred, as it being in litigation. So I would suggest if any of you have any concerns or want to know what's going on with that, to reach out to Robert or Carly personally to kind of poke them on that one.
Well, but you're
We
still
did.
a paid.
He did.
We did.
Okay.
Oh, okay. What, anything?
Yeah.
Nope.
No, yeah, because I mean, I can ask, but I have no idea what I'm even looking or asking for. I don't, none of those files are really.
So you're not being sued. Is what you're saying? Like ours.
Well, you know what you might push on is getting that, Robert to set up the time for that. Your,
Yeah,
6 month review.
we did that. I mentioned to you the last meeting. We had our first contract negotiation meeting today, which did not start very well. So I didn't want to ask him for something after the fact. But I'll email him again.
Yep.
John
it'll
was-
soon
John
be
was
your
asking.
8 months review.
Yeah, I know. Trust me, I know.
Is that,
And like I said, I've been asking for it since November.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
and legitimately, he said some stuff.
Yeah. but there are a few things like that, and the beaver deceiver.
Yeah, when I told him I had some ideas of things of what I wanted to do with the position that I wanted to run by him, that includes
Yep.
some of the subcommittees and projects and stuff that are in town, make sure that I'm included in getting those things going, that I wanted to talk to him about, obviously with you guys there too, so.
Yep.
I can ask him about, I can email him again, I just feel like at this
I'll go
point
home
I'm
and
just,
email him tonight too.
yeah, I feel like I'm just hounding him, and I said after my meeting today, I didn't want to fucking.
I said, what are you, bored?
Just tell him that
I'll
John.
forget,
really
Can't
hissy
sleep.
fit.
Yeah, like watch the meeting from last night, they're really upset about this.
John's sure a hissy fit. Come on.
Say again now?
You threw a hissy fit about this. That's going to.
That's right, threw a hissy fit.
Alright.
Whatever that means. What does that mean, hissy?
Like
Is this something I shouldn't be saying?
No, I think
I
you're
was
okay.
going to introduce it.
I just thought it like that's the sound you make, Charlie. Yeah, hissy.
All right.
It's probably
All right. Anything else?
Sorry, I kept you.
Jen, got anything for us?
9.
Jess,
No.
motion to adjourn.
So,
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay.